Welcome! Can you believe it is our last class already? Well, official class. We are always in God's classroom. I hope to see more of you in the future. Who knows what role God has for you? What we desperately need is to have World Renewal Brazil representatives in every church. God is doing so much here, but it is overwhelming to me to try to get that information out to every group that would love to celebrate with us in God's victories. Steve Turner will be sharing about how you can become a representative for your church. Know that this is not just a job for the church leadership. This is an opportunity for every one of you. Rachel Ferguson will be sharing about poverty, something very close to her heart, and something that often bothers people after coming to Brazil. How can some have so much and some have so little? Thank you for your partnership, and know that it doesn't end here. It has been a pleasure getting to spend this time with you. God's blessings.
So please take out your information about poverty handout. And this is something that is very dear to my heart and I get really excited about. But it's a lot of information, so follow along with me. There is a difference between USA poverty and world poverty. A lot of people say, well, why would you go to Brazil to help them? We have people who need help here. Yes, we do. And they are beautiful people and they need our help. But as well, there are people that need help around the world. The poverty level in the United States is roughly $11,000 a year, and adding $4,000 per person per household. And all of this, if you want to check it out, I have all the references down there. So that means, so if two people, you have about $15,000 a year coming in, and that means that you are living in poverty if you have less than that amount of money. Minimum wage, a decent living in Brazil is about, in US dollars, $4,000. Let alone those living in poverty. So if you imagine, one person in poverty in the United States is $11,000. Minimum wage, so basically what most everyone makes, starts at $4,000 in Brazil for one person. The official world poverty line is set at $2 a day or $750 a year. $750 is a big difference from $11,000. There are different kinds of poverty. Eric Jensen's Teaching with Poverty in Mind lists situational poverty, urban and rural poverty, generational poverty, absolute poverty, and relative poverty. And so each one of those has their own problems and ways of getting through that and needs. Some poverty is relative, as is wealth, and an internal measurement compared to those around you. So that means, oh, I'm poor because I have less than so-and-so, instead of I'm poor because I don't have food, or some kind of standard like that. The solutions for each kind of poverty are different and cannot be lumped together. For those in deep poverty, so we're talking about world poverty, global poverty, the main reasons are increasing national local prosperity, decreasing national local prosperity, health or death shocks, things we can't control, natural disasters, failure of initiative, the crops don't grow, family problems and expenses, and asset depletion. The main reasons for poverty in the USA are completely different. They are divorce and separation, out of wedlock child, or earnings fail. So if you think about that, the whole way of going about dealing with poverty, working with poverty, changing and helping people break out of poverty is completely different in the world than from the United States. Poverty is often transient. Most people are in and out of poverty or kinds of poverty depending on the circumstances, rather than being in a permanent place of destitution. So maybe I have money until the third week of the month before I get my food stamps for the next month. There are often mindsets that go along with the level of money you perceive yourself to be in. Those in poverty often value relationships and entertainment. Those in middle class value work, achievement, and material security. And those who are wealthy often value security, privacy, and maintaining wealth. And there's a ton of information on the internet about those different mindsets and what that means. The mindsets might overgeneralize and stereotype, but everyone has their own rules and values from how they were raised. We talked about worldview. They often hinder success in life. Ruby Payne has a book called Bridges Out of Poverty, which is really awesome. If this is something you're interested in, I definitely suggest that book to read. To move from poverty to middle class, or middle class to materially wealthy, at least in your mindset, an individual has to give up some aspect of the relationships for achievement, at least for some period of time. So if you think of people you know who are in poverty, maybe they would have to give up time that they would have with their family to take some college classes to be able to go into middle class. There are 4 common ways or reasons that people move out of poverty. So what are the ways that, hey, when have you seen success? Maybe they've had an insight, a goal, and determination to change. So that's just those people you see are, I'm going to work and it's just going to change. It's going to happen. And they have that determination, and it does. Sometimes people have a talent or skill. NBA players, rappers who you see, get famous. Those stories that you hear. C, a relationship with someone who guides and supports. So having that relationship, talking about child sponsorships, those have made the difference in those child's life. That was the thing that helped them to get out of that poverty. And then D, the pain of living in poverty. Often when, hey, you know what, I don't have an option. I cannot stay this way in my life anymore. And that's the decision that gives them the determination to get out of that poverty. Number 12 says, Band-Aid help, going in, change something, get out. Doesn't help in the long run, although it is necessary in certain situations. If you remember that thing we filled in that was talking about betterment, development, and the first one, I forgot the word for it. But what you use to help people, and we always want to work towards development and investing in the people, and then them going on and creating that community interest in themselves. It reinforces the idea that they can't do it alone. That's the difference between relief and development. That's the word, relief. Understand overall how blessed you are. If the world were shrunk to 100 people, 7 would have college degrees. 17 could not read. 48 people would be living off of $2 a day or less. That's $750 a year. 22 would not have electricity. 13 would not have safe drinking water. Do you really want to know a little bit about poverty? Try the Rice and Beans Challenge, or $2 a day, doing that for a week or a month, really seeing what that is. Read stories at our website, Building Living Stones at blogspot.com. Another book that's a really awesome resource is called Half the Sky. You will probably never know what poverty truly feels like. If you can read and understand this list, it means you have been given at least a basic education, skills, and resources in the world. You can go out and try to experience poverty, but you know that if it came down to it, you or someone else you know would provide for you. Those in deep poverty do not have that assurance, and that makes a huge amount of difference. So that was a lot of information about poverty. Taking a deep breath, look over this list with your team and discuss maybe some of the poverty that you saw in Brazil. Discuss what that means. Discuss what poverty looks like in your own hometown, in your area. Take about 5-10 minutes to do that. So we value your feedback, and this is the way that we are going to get better and better in making these videos, having these resources for you, and even how we do things in Brazil. So if you take out your paper that says feedback on pre, during, and post-trip training, help us to become better. And it might be like, oh, we're done with the trip, we've already back, it was great, whatever, I can't remember anything specific. Please take the time to invest in us as we have invested in you. So looking at that, basically you just, you can put either a number 1 to 10, hearing about pre-planning meeting. So at your church, when you had that pre-planning meeting or hearing about it or how it was presented, was it explained well? Or you can even just put a check or a 10. Was it relevant? I mean, did it get across what you needed to know? And is there anything you want more? Notice this is a very little box. Please feel free to write on a separate piece of paper any ideas that you have for any of these things. Objectives and vision for the trip. Did you understand the vision that you had for the trip? Assistance with forms. Were you completely lost when you were filling out your visa application, or did you know who to call? Did you know who to talk to? Did you have that paper? Explanation of and building support teams. Assistance with fundraising. Ease of communication when you had questions. Did you have that good support system? Language learning with Cade. What CHE is, that holistic ministry, getting a basic idea of what that was. Community ownership. Remember that mountain story we talked about. How to help, not harm. You're going down and not to make messes for other people to clean up. Reciprocal and healthy relationships. Remember that river crossing skit where you, the foreigner and the local, they crossed over, and how those different skits work together. Role delegation and preparedness. Did you understand your personal role of what you were going to do? Culture contrast and stereotypes. That was the America, Brazilian, those different, how they lined up and went together. Culture shock, re-entry, the story about coming or going. Testimony preparation. Evangelism, being able to share the gospel with the Mandicube or the card. Spiritual gifts. Prayer walking, spiritual warfare. Packing list. Was it explained well? Was it relevant? Again, put a checklist there. If you want more, what is it that you wanted? Let us know. Getting to Brazil, how was that smooth transition? Did you need to know that you needed to go through a certain set of doors to get the right direction? You know, did you get lost? Let us know these things. We want to make sure to have it clear for the next group. Accommodations in Brazil, transportations in Brazil, food in Brazil. Number 24 is weather in Brazil. We know that we cannot control the weather, but the things that we can control, where was it explained well for you to bring whatever you needed for the weather. Devotions in Brazil with your team leader, ministry in Brazil, organization in Brazil, the people in Brazil. Did we explain them well to you? Did you have those videos where you were like, Telly, who is Telly? I don't remember who Telly is. I'm hearing about this Telly. Who's Telly? Were you able to see a picture and put him into context? Our team in Brazil, were you able to work together? Were you given all of those things that you needed? Returning home, again, did you get lost in the airports? Re-entry into the USA, were we able to help you with that? Debriefing the trip, preparing and presenting the trip, presenting the trip to your church, presenting to whoever. Did you feel like we covered that well? Writing letters to yourself, having those resources for journaling. Culture discussion, poverty discussion that we just did, and practical steps for future involvement. We're actually going to talk about that in just a second. And thoughts and ideas for how to improve training for future. So please, I know this isn't a lot of room, take other pieces of paper and take at least 10 minutes. You might even do this a separate time outside of the class, but make sure we get these papers back. And then take out your action, what's next handout. And so it just has read, pray, learn, listen, and go. And different suggestions for you as you continue to assimilate back into your regular life that is not maybe so regular anymore. Transition process, making sure you have a closure to the environment and relationships. You created a completely different normal during your trip, and now you're coming back, and what does it mean to work that in so you're not just boxing up all of your experiences and putting them in the closet, really applying it to your life. Assessing your personal growth, reconnecting with your support systems, and vision for the future. So what does this mean for the future? Your personal call to ministry and missions, career and education, steps of equipping. What is your next step? If you feel called to ministry or missions, even if it is just to be a representative with your own church, consider the following training or education programs. There's the CHE, Community Health Evangelism Training. The Missions Dilemma by Steve Saint is a great book, or a Perspectives class. Those are some great opportunities. And then what can you do for the ministry in Brazil? So at this time, I really hope that you've been able to schedule a Skype call with us. Because as you've come home, as you're working together, we want to know what we can count on you for, what you will take personal responsibility for. And so hopefully we have that Skype call coming up right now or sometime very soon.